The crypto market, after that slight sell-off, has been just ranging in a very boring fashion. Now, this is because, of course, today was an off day for the stock market. The stock market now reopens later today. I do think that this is when we start to see the real price action starting to hit the markets. We will see the effect of the Trump tariffs. And after that, well, mainly the thing that we are watching for is just how crypto is going to react to that and how we close out the week as well. And I know that a lot of people will say like, oh, like this is taking so long. This is annoying. Well, most of the charts, when we start to see the charts, yes, lower time frame structure starts to brew. But then when we have the weekly candle close or like even the monthly candle close, that's when we start to see the significant signal hit the markets that, hey, this is actually happening. We haven't yet witnessed a major weekly candle close or a monthly candle close on Bitcoin that was pretty bullish since going back to October. But it seems as though we are starting to carve out a path to that. Now, when it comes back to the market itself, market cap pretty flat. I mean, listen, if we're looking at the market cap, this is what we are looking like in the last 30 days. Not much is happening here. We're just kind of ranging. We're still chopping. Even with the recent drop, if we're looking at this like on the 1 year, nothing is really happening and nothing has been happening since going back to November. But we are definitely watching a few charts like Bitcoin and XRP and analyzing what's going to potentially happen next. And I do believe that the market is going to wake up very soon. And what is the time frame on very soon? Well, I do think that by the end of this month, we should be trading significantly higher than what we are right now. Now, before we do continue on, I just want to let you guys know that the free Discord is available to anyone that wants to join up. There's going to be a link down in the description below, as well as in the comments below, that you guys can now join the Discord for free. There's over 13,000 members a part of this. If you guys do want to join up, you guys are more than welcome to. There's also a paid side that allows you to get access to a ton of information. I mean, a ton of information. And I'm working on that side with a few other individuals from the space. So if you guys do want to join up on that side too, you guys are more than welcome to. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about Bitcoin, because if we're looking at this thing on the 24-hour view, this is what we're looking like right now. It's just a slight sell-off. I mean, ultimately, the way that I'm looking at Bitcoin currently is, and I don't want to compare it, but it's very similar to this sell-off here, where we're in this downtrend. We're just kind of resetting the RSI, and we're potentially finding a bottom here. I don't want to say that we are at the bottom because it's questionable right now, but if we are really going to bottom out somewhere, I would argue that it would be around this level. Ultimately, what we want to see is a few daily candle closes around some key level, which, you know, ultimately we want to go off of the major wicks here. This would be a perfect level to find a lot of support on, very similar to where we found support on the prior swing low, right around those major wicks going back to the end of December. This would essentially be the wick going back to January 12th. There's also a lot of demand in this area, but you know, it's questionable on if this is going to hold or not. RSI is back to the midline, very similar to the level that we did dip down to back in the beginning of the month, before that next rally to 97, almost 98K. So I would hope for us to really kind of bottom out here and have that, you know, potential swing high happen next. With XRP, again, XRP just ranging and chopping. Everyone is concerned about this chart. I'm really not worried at all, especially if we're looking at this thing like on the higher time frame structure. We're ranging right around macro support. If it gets lost, is that a big concern? Ultimately, I mean, with RSI being so close to oversold levels, I really do think that a lot of people right now are overhyping the fear on XRP and the panic. I'm really not concerned at all on a lot of these altcoin charts. The main thing that we are looking at is, yes, while Bitcoin does range or chop here, yes, it does hurt altcoins a lot more because of how high Bitcoin dominance is. This is nothing new. We are so used to this at this point because, again, you know, we've been through major cycles where Bitcoin has been the main driver of almost everything. And it typically leads us into that last phase of the cycle where everything goes absolutely crazy because we decouple away from Bitcoin, aka our alt season. When it comes back to Bitcoin, though, this is what the macro chart looks like on the weekly. Again, we're just ranging and ranging and ranging. The level in which we did wick to and essentially have a few weekly candle closes around, was major support going all the way back to 2024 into the new year, aka 2025. So we did hit those levels, and then we kind of rejected off of them slightly. It's going to take a little bit of time to break above this, but the second that we do, you could see exactly what happens, because if we already had the reaction back in May of 2025, like once we break over this level, Bitcoin's going to go crazy. And if Bitcoin goes crazy while Bitcoin dominance is dropping, then yes, altcoins will see a much larger craze, if you will, in price action. Very similar to how, price action on altcoins is exaggerating in a big way when Bitcoin drops a little bit because of how high Bitcoin dominance is. It's the inverse if we are seeing Bitcoin dominance dropping while Bitcoin is going crazy. But again, with Bitcoin, looking at this on the weekly, bearish momentum is dying down completely. So, when we think about sellers, there's not a lot of sellers right now for Bitcoin. So I would say that we're getting to, we're starting to witness seller exhaustion on Bitcoin. At the same exact time that Bitcoin dominates right now, and I have this on the weekly, although yes, we are trying to break out, we're trying to break above the prior highs. So we're just kind of ranging within this roughly like 60.7% to like 57% level. We're just ranging in this zone. I'm watching for us to lose that 57.16% level, because that's the lows going all the way back here to September of 2020. And you can see exactly what happened once we lost that. Now, we did lose it slightly back here in December of 2024. Which is why when we think about Bitcoin dominance, we're looking at this first initial level being the first key area for us to lose. After that, we're looking at 52.78%. These two levels are the last major key levels for Bitcoin dominance to hold before we just cascade, aka before we see alt season. And I do think that during that time, we'll already start to see altcoins going insane, very similar to going all the way back to like the February-March timeframe of 2021. So we should start to see altcoins really ramp up once we start to see, Bitcoin dominance take out a few of these levels. And then, of course, yes, I'm expecting this blue zone to be our official top for altcoins this cycle. So I'm going to be watching this closely. And of course, yes, when it comes back to XRP, the main thing that we are watching on XRP is on the weekly, bearish momentum dying down as well. RSI is just under the moving average. I mean, RSI is so flat at this point. So when XRP does break out, we have so much steam left in the tank for us to really just go absolutely insane on the XRP chart. That's why I love when RSI is completely reset the way that it is, because we're all the way back to lows going back here to July of 2024. So, when we start to run, there's a large amount of space that we can run for before we get into that overbought territory. But, looking at XRP right now, we just wicked down to the lows going back to the end of December. So this has held. We've had a strong bounce. I'm just mainly watching for the weekly candle close above $2. That's going to be the major factor of if we're going to continue to drop lower or if we're going to start to build out a floor and continue higher from this moment. So this weekly candle close is a little bit more important than like the daily or lower time frame views. Now, this week is also a very big week. Obviously, today, aka Tuesday, we don't have like any significant events when it comes back to the financial time frame. But the main thing that we are looking at here with Tuesday is just the stock market open and seeing how stocks are opening today. Beyond that, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I mean, we have a ton of big updates, including GDP, CPI. We also have PCE. I mean, there's going to be a lot of major reports happening and coming out this week. So definitely lock in on a few things here because I do suspect that it's going to be a pretty big week for, finance in general. And these events could definitely affect the stock market itself. So I'm going to be watching that closely. These could definitely affect the overall crypto market as well. So, again, just make sure to watch what happens throughout this week with some of these major financial events. Now, beyond that, let's talk about the elephant in the room, aka the Fed. So we know that the Fed is about to inject $8.3 billion in liquidity tomorrow. This is what I mean by there's going to be a liquidity tsunami hitting these markets. And it doesn't hit it all at once. In fact, it accumulates over time. we have here from Crypto Rover the full breakdown of the injection here from the Fed. Mark actually outlined this a little bit better. We have here Stealth QE has entered the chat. The first Fed T-bill purchase hits tomorrow, January 20th, injecting $8.3 billion between 9 to 9:20 a.m. ET, a total of $55.36 billion in short-term liquidity set to pump into the markets through January and early February. Now, is this going to affect the markets in a big way? Are we going to see like the markets expand rapidly because of this? Not exactly. However, it is still an insight that we are seeing the Fed injecting liquidity, which is the main point of this video anyways. While we are looking at these major events, while we are looking at the price charts starting to die out in terms of bearish momentum, we're starting to see sellers getting exhausted, we are about to witness a full-on Fed injection. And I said this back in December as well. On December 10th, I said that we are witnessing the beginning of Stealth QE. However you try to paint the picture, the Fed today delivered one of the most bullish FOMC meeting updates yet. Confirmed rate cut, which was priced in, but we also got another confirmation, which was a liquidity injection. The Fed will begin purchasing $40 billion worth of treasuries over the next 30 days. QT ended beginning of the month, so now it seems as though Stealth QE is already happening. Bullish for risk on assets. In other words, the sideline players are simply not ready for what's coming. If you have been frustrated, upset, or even depressed about the price action over the last couple months, what happens next should change that. And yes, it should change that completely. I know it's not going to change it immediately. It's not going to change it overnight. However, I do believe that this is going to be a major factor that supports the markets right now. While Bitcoin is starting to rebound, while the markets are starting to bounce back, I would argue that we are now just getting out of the storm from October 10th. That October 10th day, what happened on October 10th changed the market in a big way. Now we're starting to see us finally bouncing back from that. And now we have fresh liquidity entering the markets. This is going to prop the markets up a bit more. It's going to help the markets breathe a bit. And already, in my opinion, I really do think the factors are already there telling us that the market is bottomed out. I've said this many times over when even looking at the total. I really do expect the total to start to have a major bounce from these levels that we're trading at right now. Obviously, we need to watch for the support zone to hold or not, which is right around 3.06 trillion. I'm watching for this to really bounce back and, break out in the sense of, what I'm outlining on this chart. And the reason why is because of the MACD momentum. Again, bearish momentum is dying down. Sellers are getting exhausted. There's really no one selling crypto right now. And this is at the same exact time that the chart looks eerily similar to Bitcoin, obviously, but we're also finding support right around the prior highs and right around support going all the way back to the summer of 2025. This feels very similar to when we started to have a support form back in the end of April. And I do expect us to have another major rally here once the market is ready. Now, when is the market going to be ready? Nobody knows. In fact, it's going to happen when you least expect it. I do think that maybe by the end of this week, we should start to see that impulsive move happen, but I don't think that's going to last another week. I would argue by the end of this month, we should have a much larger impulsive move on this chart form. Very similar to going all the way back to like May when we had this crazy weekly candle brew from roughly like 2.88 trillion all the way up to 3.32 trillion. So that's what I'm watching for right now. But the overall environment here with the Fed injecting liquidity, starting stealth QE in my opinion, while the markets, the charts are telling us that these charts are essentially bottomed out. I mean, RSI is flatlined. This is not how a market tops. So right now I'm watching for a much larger impulse move across the board. I'm watching the weekly candle close, and of course I'm watching how stocks open. But the main thing that I'm looking at is what the Fed is doing, and the Fed is beginning their stealth QE. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video.